Now let's take a look at a set of proofs, and our first one is missing a statement and a reason. So what we're going to do is just kind of look at the overall proof and try and figure out how we got from step 2 to step 4, or look at what's missing somewhere here to get to either step 5 or step 6. So first of all, notice we have our givens, two segments congruent to each other here, BD and CE, then two angles congruent, then two additional segments congruent. By the reflexive property, CD is congruent to CD. Now I'm going to skip step 3 for right now because I want to see what I got next, and that is that two triangles here are congruent. Now, if I look at those triangles, I know that they had a congruent side and they had a congruent angle from our given. Those two things aren't enough. We need a third statement to get that. Now, let's go back to the first statement. The first statement said that BD is congruent to CE. Then in statement 2, we know that this segment here, CD, is congruent to itself by the reflexive property. That leads me to say, hey, in order for me to get to this statement, I need another side. I had a side and an angle in these two. I need another side for side, angle, side for these two triangles to be congruent. Based upon the long segments being congruent to each other and then parts of those being congruent to each other, we can conclude that there must be a pair of segments congruent. Now this is where delta math, you just have to bear with it. It has some generic things listed here first. And yes, there are no X's and Y's and Z's in this diagram, but when I select that general statement that two segments are congruent to each other, you'll see that now it's left it open for me to say, well, which two segments? And again, I'm looking for these two triangles to be congruent, and it would be by side. This angle, that angle there is congruent. This side is congruent. What I need is this side here, BC, so I'm going to type in BC, hopefully correctly, and I need in the other triangle, we have the two angles here, and we have the side. I need this side here, DE, to be congruent. And the reason is we recognize that in this one, we had two segments, congruent segments, subtracted from congruent segments that will result in congruent segments. I know that's a big statement, but let's break it apart. We have CD, that's the congruent segment, that's being subtracted from these two long segments, BD and CE. The result will be BC, right here, and DE. And that's all we need to do on this one. The rest of it is all filled out for us.